Yangsan, South Korea, reached 40. 3 degrees Celsius, that is 104. 5 degrees Fahrenheit, not a heat index, not a forecast. The actual air temperature. And this is a place where summer heat is normally humid, uncomfortable, and intense, but 40 degrees Celsius is a completely different category of danger. It is the kind of heat that changes how long you can safely be outside, how hard power grids have to work, how quickly people can become dehydrated, and how dangerous it becomes when temperatures do not fall enough overnight. But this is not only about one city in South Korea. Japan has been dealing with brutal 40-degree heat. Major parts of East Asia have been under exceptional heat stress. South Korea is dealing with record temperatures and drought concerns in some areas. Meanwhile, other parts of Asia are seeing the exact opposite threat. Extreme rainfall, flash flooding, landslides, and dangerous tropical weather. That is what makes this situation so serious. This is not one simple heat wave. This is a continent-scale pattern where the atmosphere is producing extremes in multiple directions at once. Heat, where people need relief. Heavy rain, where the ground is already saturated. Drought in places that desperately need water. Flooding in places that cannot absorb another inch. And over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you why Yangsan hit 40. 3 to C, why Busan also broke a temperature record that stood for more than a century, why Japan has now had to create stronger language for these kinds of heat events, and what people across Asia need to watch in the days ahead. Because when you see temperatures like this, the question is not just how hot is it? The real question is, how long can this pattern hold on? What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Today is July 31st, 2026, and we are tracking a major heat emergency across parts of Asia, centered right now on East Asia, but connected to a much broader and more unstable weather pattern. Now, let's start with the number that got everyone's attention. Yangsan, in South Gyeongju Province, South Korea, reached 40. 3 degrees Celsius, or 104. 5 degrees Fahrenheit on July the 29th. That is the highest temperature recorded in Yangsan since weather observations began there. Just a few days earlier, Yangsan had already reached 39, 3 degrees C, so this was not a one-hour fluke after an otherwise normal summer. This was the continuation of an intense, persistent heat episode that kept building. Nearby, Busan reached 38, 8 degrees C, breaking its all-time record dating back to the beginning of its weather observations in 1904. Think about that for a second. A city with more than a century of weather records just set a new all-time temperature high. That does not mean every day from here forward will be hotter. Weather does not work like that. But it does tell us that the atmosphere has reached an extreme state capable of producing heat, beyond what local communities, infrastructure, and health systems are used to handling. And that is the important point. Extreme heat is not judged only by the absolute number on a thermometer. It is also about what people are acclimated to, what temperatures normally occur in that region, and whether the heat is lasting long enough to remove any chance of recovery. For South Korea, where summer humidity can be very high, the danger rises fast. A dry 104-degree day is dangerous. A humid 104-degree day, especially in an urban area with hot pavement, buildings trapping warmth, limited nighttime cooling, and people commuting or working outside, can become life-threatening very quickly. This is why heat warnings exist. This is why the words record-breaking should not be treated as entertainment. They are a signal to change your behavior. So why did Yangsan get this hot? The short answer is a heat dome. But I want to explain that properly because heat dome gets used constantly now, and sometimes it sounds like a buzzword. It is not. A heat dome is basically an area of strong, high pressure in the atmosphere that acts like a lid. Under high pressure, air tends to sink. As air sinks, it compresses. As it compresses, it warms. At the same time, sinking air makes it much harder for clouds and thunderstorms to develop. With fewer clouds, the sun has a clear path to heat the ground all day long. Then, the ground heats the air above it. Roads, buildings, rooftops, parking lots, and concrete all hold heat and release it back into the air. That creates a feedback loop. Clear skies allow more solar heating. The ground heats up, the air heats up, the high pressure keeps suppressing clouds and rain, and the heat continues to build day after day. Now add geography. Yangsan sits in southeastern South Korea, near mountains, and close to the Busan area. Local terrain can matter a lot. During extreme heat, air flowing down mountain slopes can compress and warm. Valleys can trap hot air. Cities can add their own urban heat island effect. That does not create a 3 degree temperature by itself, but when the larger weather pattern is already extremely hot, local geography can be the difference between 37 degrees C and 40 degrees C. And that difference matters. At 35 degrees C, we are already in serious heat territory. At 38 degrees C, heat stress can rapidly become dangerous, especially in high humidity. At 40 degrees and above, this is no longer whether people should try to push through. with a bottle of water and a fan. This is heat that requires planning. Now here is what often gets missed when people cover heat waves. The overnight temperatures. The daytime maximum gets the headlines. It is the big number. It is what everyone shares online. But the nighttime low can be just as important, sometimes more important, for public health. Your body needs time to cool down. Your home needs time to release heat. Hospitals need a break from the surge in heat illness. Power grids need demand to ease. Outdoor workers need a safer window to recover. When temperatures remain high through the night, none of that happens. This is especially dangerous in dense cities. Concrete stores, heat. Buildings release. Warmth long after sunset. Apartments without strong air conditioning can remain dangerously hot overnight. Older adults, infants, people with heart disease, people taking certain medications, and people without access to cooled indoor spaces are hit the hardest. South Korea has had recent summers with what are called tropical nights. Nights where temperatures do not fall below 25 degrees or 77 degrees. That might not sound extreme to high humidity, and several days of intense daytime heat stacked on top of that, people lose their ability to recover. That is when heat exhaustion turns into heat stroke. And heat stroke is not simply feeling uncomfortable, it is a medical emergency. If someone is confused, faints, has a very high body temperature, has hot skin, is vomiting or stops sweating despite extreme heat, that is not a wait and see situation. That is an emergency. This is one of those times where I want everybody watching in affected areas to look beyond themselves. Check on older family members, check on neighbors, check on anyone who works outdoors, check on people who may not have reliable air conditioning. Heat can isolate people inside their homes while everyone assumes they are fine. Do not assume that. Now let's move across the water to Japan, because Japan has also been dealing with extraordinary heat. In recent days, parts of central Japan have reached or exceeded 40 degrees C. Japan has even begun using stronger official language for temperatures at this level, classifying 40 degrees C or higher as what can be translated as a brutally hot or cruelly hot day. And honestly, that language fits. Japan is used to hot summers. Japan is used to humidity. But when you combine high temperatures, dense urban populations, elderly communities, trains, outdoor labor, tourism, school activities, and high nighttime temperatures, extreme heat becomes a national risk. Tokyo's forecast on July 31st showed a high around 37 degrees C. 37 degrees Celsius is roughly 98, 6-degree human body temperature. And when the air temperature is near your body temperature, sweating becomes much less effective at cooling you, especially when the humidity is high. That is why just drink water is not enough advice. Hydration is critical, yes, but if someone is outside in direct sun, working hard, wearing heavy clothing, not taking breaks, or dealing with high humidity, their body can still overheat even if they are drinking water. You need shade, you need breaks, you need cooling, you need to reduce exertion during the hottest part of the day. And if local officials issue a heat stroke alert, treat it the same way you would treat a severe thunderstorm. Warning: it is a warning that the environment itself is unsafe. In Japan, cooling centers, air-conditioned public spaces, and changes to outdoor schedules are not signs of weakness. They are practical adaptation to a dangerous reality. There is also an agricultural impact here. Extreme heat can damage rice, fruit, vegetables, and livestock. It can affect flowering and pollination. It can stress water supplies. It can change what farmers are able to grow and when they are able to harvest. And when multiple countries experience prolonged heat at the same time, this stops being a local weather story. It becomes a food, energy, health, and economic story. Now, here is where this gets even more concerning. While some areas are under intense heat and drought pressure, other parts of Asia are dealing with extreme rain. That may sound contradictory. It is not. A warmer atmosphere can hold more water vapor. When storms develop in that warmer, moisture-loaded environment, they can produce much heavier rainfall. So you can have a heat dome over one part of the continent, while monsoon moisture, tropical systems, or stalled boundaries produce flooding somewhere else. And that is exactly why this broader pattern deserves attention. Across Asia in recent weeks, destructive flooding, landslides, and flash floods have affected multiple countries. Heavy rain has hit parts of China, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, Vietnam, and other regions. The human impact has been severe, and flash flooding is especially dangerous because it moves faster than people expect. A river flood may give you time to watch water levels rise. Flash flooding often does not. A thunderstorm unloads extreme rain. Over hilly terrain, a city drainage system gets overwhelmed, a small creek becomes a violent current, or a road turns into a moving river. Then people make the worst possible decision. They try to drive through it. Do not do that. I know we say this constantly, but it is because people keep dying in vehicles during flood events. If water covers the road, turn around. You do not know if the pavement is still there. You do not know how fast the water is moving. You do not know if the road has been washed out. And this is important. Flooding can happen after a heat wave too. Hot ground can become dry and hard. When very heavy rain falls on baked soil, more of that water runs off instead of soaking in. Urban areas have paved surfaces that do the same thing, so the atmosphere can go from dangerously hot to dangerously wet with very little warning. That is why preparedness cannot be built around only one hazard. You may need a heat plan and a flood plan in the same week. Let's zoom out and talk about the larger atmospheric setup. Across East Asia in summer, heat is often connected to the position and strength of the subtropical high-pressure system over the western Pacific. When that high pressure expands or stays unusually strong, it can push hot, stable air over Japan, South Korea, eastern China, and nearby regions. That stable air blocks cloud formation and suppresses widespread thunderstorms. At the same time, warm ocean water can feed moisture into the atmosphere around the edges of that high pressure zone. So on one side of the pattern, you can have hot, dry, sinking air. On another side, you can have very humid air, heavy rain, and severe thunderstorms. This is why weather maps across Asia can look chaotic right now. One region is watching a heat emergency, another region is watching river levels, another is watching a tropical disturbance, another is dealing with drought. But these are not random disconnected events. They are pieces of a broader summer circulation and pattern interacting with very warm air and water. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you every single extreme event is caused by one factor. That would not be responsible weather reporting. Weather is complicated. Natural climate patterns matter. Ocean temperatures matter. Monsoon behavior matters. Tropical systems matter. Local geography matters. But the background climate is warmer than it used to be, and that raises the baseline from which extreme heat operates. Think of it like starting a race farther down the track. When conditions line up for a heat wave, it does not have to work as hard to reach a record. That is one reason record-breaking temperatures are becoming more common in many parts of the world. So what happens next? Let's break this down in a practical way. For South Korea and Japan, the biggest concern remains the persistence of oppressive heat, particularly in areas where warnings are active or where temperatures are forecast to reach the mid to upper 30s Celsius. If you are in an affected area, do not schedule intense outdoor activity during the hottest part of the day if you can avoid it. That generally means late morning through late afternoon. If your job requires outdoor work, take shade breaks before you feel sick. Do not wait for dizziness. Do not wait for nausea. Do not wait for a headache. Those are already warning signs. Wear loose, light-colored clothing. Use air conditioning if available. Fans can help, but once indoor temperatures get extremely high, a fan alone may not be enough to protect you from dangerous heat stress. Drink water steadily. Do not wait until you are thirsty. Avoid alcohol during extreme heat. It can worsen dehydration. And please do not leave children, older adults, or pets in vehicles. Not for minutes. Not with a window cracked. Not in shade. Vehicles heat up much faster than people realize. As the hot pattern shifts or weakens at the edges, thunderstorms can develop. And these storms can be intense because heat adds energy to the atmosphere. Warm air holds moisture. Hot surfaces help air rise. If a boundary or sea breeze provides a trigger, storms can rapidly build upward. That does not mean every hot day ends with storms. High pressure can suppress storm development. But where the cap weakens, where that warm lid in the atmosphere finally cracks, storms can fire. When that happens, the risks become lightning, damaging wind, hail in some areas, and flash flooding from extremely heavy rain. This is the part of the forecast people often underestimate. They see a sunny, brutally hot day and assume the main danger is over after sunset. But a nighttime thunderstorm complex can bring torrential rain to areas that have been baking all day. So keep weather alerts on overnight. Do not turn them off because you are tired of hearing them. We also have to watch tropical moisture and any organized low-pressure systems across the western Pacific and nearby monsoon regions. Tropical weather does not need to become a named typhoon to create a major disaster. A broad tropical disturbance can pull huge amounts of moisture into a coastline or mountainous region. If it slows down, it can produce days of flooding rain. If it moves into an existing monsoon pattern, it can make already dangerous rain even worse. This is particularly important for communities near rivers, steep terrain, low-lying neighborhoods, and areas with poor drainage. If you live in a flood-prone area, do not wait for water to enter your home before you make a plan. Know where your documents are, keep medication accessible, charge your phone and backup batteries. No more than one route out. Do not park in flood-prone underpasses or beside fast-rising streams. And if authorities tell you to evacuate, leave. Do not spend time trying to decide whether your neighborhood will be the exception. Another thing I'm watching closely is the strain this puts on essential systems. Extremes. Heat creates a massive demand spike for electricity because millions of people turn on air conditioning at the same time. That can stress power grids. If power demand gets too high, officials may ask people to conserve electricity during peak hours. If outages happen, the danger can increase fast, especially for people in apartments, hospitals, care facilities, or homes without backup cooling. This is why it is smart to prepare before an emergency. Charge devices before peak demand, keep flashlights available, have enough water on hand. Know where the nearest cooled public space is. If you rely on powered medical equipment, have a backup plan. That is not panic, that is basic preparedness. Heat also affects water. Drought conditions can reduce reservoirs, high temperatures increase evaporation, agriculture requires more water just as water. Availability may become more limited. Then, in a cruel twist, extreme rain can fall somewhere nearby, but it comes too fast to be stored efficiently and instead causes floods and landslides. This is why weather extremes are not just about the temperature on your phone. They are about whether people can work safely, whether crops can survive, whether power stays on, whether hospitals can keep up, whether clean water is available, whether a family has a safe place to sleep at night. That is the real story behind 40, 3 Daegu in Yangsan. Now, I also want to say something important about extreme weather coverage online. Do not rely on one viral map, one screenshot, or one person on social media telling you that the entire continent is about to break records. Weather data must be checked. Forecast models change. A 10-day model image is not a warning. A forecast high is not an observed temperature. An airport station, a city center station, and a mountain station can all show different values. And when a record is reported, it matters whether it is a local record, a monthly record, a station record, a provincial record, or a national record. That does not make Yangsan's reading less serious. It makes accurate reporting more important. Yangsan's 40 bowers. 3 degrees Celsius was its highest observed temperature on record. Busan's 38. 8 degrees Celsius was its highest temperature since weather observations began there in 1904. Those are major, verified events. We do not need exaggeration to make this story important. The facts are already serious enough. Here's what I want you to do if you are in an area under heat warnings right now, your specific location. Do not assume your city is safe because a nearby city has a different forecast. Second, plan your day around the heat. Move errands, outdoor exercise, construction, farming, deliveries, and long walks to cooler hours whenever possible. Third, make sure the people around you have access to cooling. That could mean air conditioning, a cooling center, a public library, a mall, a community center, or a relative's home. Fourth, hydrate before you are thirsty. If you're sweating heavily for long periods, follow local health guidance on replacing electrolytes as well. Fifth, know the symptoms. Heat exhaustion can include heavy sweating, weakness, dizziness, headache, nausea, and muscle cramps. Heat stroke can include confusion, collapse, altered behavior, very high body temperature, and hot skin. It is an emergency. Call emergency services immediately. Sixth, never underestimate the night. If your home remains hot after sunset, find cooler air if you safely can. Use curtains during the day, reduce appliance use that produces heat, and check on vulnerable people. And seventh, stay alert for the weather flip. The same broader pattern producing major heat can also produce intense rainfall and flooding when storms develop along its edges. Keep emergency alerts enabled. Yangsan reaching 40. 360 is not just another temperature record to scroll past. It is a warning about the kind of summer pattern Asia is dealing with. Right now, South Korea has seen records fall. Busan has broken a temperature mark that stood for more than 120 years. Japan is dealing with heat severe enough to require new language and stronger public warnings. Other parts of Asia are facing dangerous flooding, landslides, and tropical rainfall. And the atmosphere is showing us, once again, that extreme weather does not always arrive, one hazard at a time. I'm going to be watching the official updates from South Korea, Japan, and the wider Western Pacific closely. If the heat dome shifts, breaks down, or starts interacting with tropical moisture in a major way, that could change the threat from pure heat to flooding and severe storms very quickly. If you live in an affected area, take the warning seriously. Do not wait until somebody collapses from heat, until your power fails, or until floodwater reaches the road outside your home. Prepare early, check on people around you, and stay weather aware. If you want continued updates on this developing extreme weather situation across Asia, make sure you are subscribed, and let me know in the comments. What are temperatures like where you are right now, and are you dealing with heat, drought, storms, or flooding? Stay safe.